My name is Aaliyah, and I was born into a household where being born a girl was the greatest offense you could commit. My parents had three sons before me: Armin, Bilal, and Danish. By the time I came along, I was already seen as a disappointment, an unnecessary burden, and worse, a servant in the making. From as early as I can remember, I was expected to wake up before anyone else and make breakfast for my brothers. If I didn't, I'd be yelled at, slapped, or have my meals taken away. Meanwhile, my brothers would lounge around, playing games or scrolling on their phones, acting like royalty. "Why should they work when you're here?" my mother would say whenever I complained. Girls are meant to serve their families, especially their brothers. I used to think maybe things would get better. Maybe if I was kind enough, worked hard enough, or brought home good grades, they would finally see me as more than just a maid. But nothing I ever did was enough. By the time I was 15, I had stopped dreaming. I was the one who ironed their school uniforms, packed their lunches, and cleaned up after them. Even when I was sick, they'd wake me up to bring them tea. Once, I had a terrible fever and fainted while scrubbing the kitchen floor. My mother didn't rush to help me. She just stood over me and said, "Stop being dramatic. There's still dust on the stairs." The worst of it came when I turned 17. One night, Bilal was sitting in the living room, shouting for water while watching TV. I had just gotten home from school and hadn't even taken my shoes off. I was tired, drained, and had a splitting headache from skipping lunch to save money. "Get me water," he yelled. I just walked in, Bilal. "Can you get it yourself this once?" I replied, not shouting, just exhausted. He stood up and stormed into the kitchen, then returned with a glass of water and a look that made my blood run cold. "You're getting too big for your shoes," he muttered. That night, I was called into the living room like a criminal. My father sat on the couch, leather belt in hand. My mother stood beside him, arms crossed. All three brothers sat in the background, smirking. "You refused your brother?" my father barked. I was tired. I had just come in. Before I could finish, the belt came down on my back. And then again. And again. I screamed. Not just from the pain, but from the realization that I was utterly alone in that house. My cries didn't stop them. My mother didn't flinch. My brothers didn't intervene. No one cared. After it was over, I was sent to my room without dinner, bruised and broken. That night, lying on my stomach in pain, I knew something had to change. But I had no money, no phone, no outside support. Until I remembered Miss Sima, my old teacher who had always told me I was special. I hadn't seen her in years, but I remembered her email address. The next day, I used the school's library computer to write to her. I didn't explain everything, just that I needed help, somewhere to stay, somewhere safe. She replied in under an hour, "Come to me. Always." I made the decision that night. I packed a small bag, just my documents, a few clothes, and the tiny photo of my grandmother who used to secretly give me sweets when I was little. I walked out at 3 a.m. and never looked back. Miss Sima lived 3 towns over. I hitchhiked and walked for hours. When I reached her home, she hugged me like no one ever had. For the first time in my life, I felt human. She helped me get admitted into a women's shelter and later assisted me in applying for scholarships. It wasn't easy. I worked part-time at a local diner, studied at night, and cried more times than I could count. But every bruise, every insult, every slap gave me fuel. I would build a life so far away from that prison they called a home that they'd never touch me again. Years passed. I completed my degree in social work, ironic, maybe, because I had to become my own rescuer first. But I wanted to be the person for others that I never had for myself. I worked in women's shelters, helped young girls find their voice, and slowly, painfully healed. And then one day, I saw a familiar name on the shelter's intake list, Meher, aged 16. When I met her, she had the same hollow look in her eyes that I used to have. Her story was different, but the pain was the same. She reminded me that I wasn't just surviving, I was changing lives. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message from an unknown number. "Aaliyah, come home. Your mother is sick. Please. Armin." I stared at the screen for a long time. I hadn't heard from them in over 7 years. I didn't reply, but curiosity got the better of me. I checked Facebook and found pictures from Bilal's wedding. There were posts about Danish's business launch. Armin had a baby boy. Life had moved on for them as if I never existed. And in a way, I hadn't. Not really. Still, I decided to go back, not for them, but for me. I wanted to look them in the eye and show them who I had become. I arrived at the house unannounced. My heart pounded as I knocked on the door. Armin answered, eyes wide. Aliyah, you actually came. Inside, the house looked the same. The curtains, the smell, the coldness, it all came rushing back. My mother was in bed, frail and sickly. When she saw me, tears welled up in her eyes. You've changed, she said weakly. No thanks to you, I replied, calm but firm. She asked for forgiveness, said she didn't know what she was doing back then. But I wasn't there for apologies. I just said what I needed to. You raised me to be a servant to your sons. But I became a woman who saves other girls from mothers like you. You didn't break me. You shaped me. And now I've walked away, and I'm never coming back. I turned and left. And as I walked down that familiar street, the same one I had escaped from years ago, I felt nothing but peace. Not regret. Not sadness. Just freedom. Because I had built a new life. A life on my terms. And I would never let anyone chain me again.